So my talk is concerned with so the attack of the conjecture of Flemmer by the final step, actually, following what we have seen before, actually asymptotic expansion in some sense. That's not usual of Malher measures. I will be sketchy because it's very long to develop, and so I will show the results and I will report to the papers I have published 2 years ago. And in the second step, after this down-to-earth actually approach to show the origin of the problem of Flemmer, to go to higher dimension and to mention a certain number of analogues of the Malher measure and of the height, actually, because that's a common literature. So in literature, the theory of height is commonly used at more than 90%. And the Malher measure is a bit an old language for appreciating these problems of limit problem, the one of Flemmer. So I would like to recall how it works. So we have defined a sequence of Perron numbers tending to 1, theta n minus 1, so greater than 1, with on the right part, that's just polynomials, but actually that's much deeper than that because that's generalized Fredholm determinants and the inverses of zeta functions of the theta n minus 1 shift. And so you have that at the step n, you have that at the step n minus 1, and in between you have this very strange power series, minus 1 plus, and so on, with a moderate lacunarity we have seen last time. Moderate lacunarity controlled by two arithmetical dynamical systems, and which are also generalized Fredholm determinants. And the inequality you have on the left correspond to a lexicographical inequality in the vector coefficients. The coefficients in the vector, except the minus 1, the constant. So we can recognize everything. And actually, this approach covers all cases of reciprocal algebraic integers beta, so greater than 1. So that's the houses of any algebraic integer, so tending to 1. And the problem of Flemmer is to find a minor round. Does there exist a minor round, strictly greater than 1, of the Malher measure of beta? So is it possible to, how is it possible to recover the conjugates of beta from that, from the dynamics? So n in this story, beta is in between two successive Perron numbers. And so n is called the dynamical degree of beta. That's not at all the true degree we have from the minimal polynomial. So in algebraic number theory, there are relations. So there is a very deep inequality in between. So the geometry of the roots. So when we have these three generic power series in between two monomials. So the geometry of the roots for the trinomials is here. For instance, n equals 37. So you have a distribution of roots like that, with a lenticulus of zeros here. The geometry is fairly uniform. So what is behind accompanying the conjecture of Flemmer is a phenomenon of limit equidistribution of conjugates. I will come back to that with the theorem of Urey-Billoux, but the general theory goes much deeper than that in higher dimension. So and when beta is not a root Perron number in this sequence, theta n minus 1 and n equals 37, you have still the lenticuli like that, with your other roots actually stuck to the unit circle, and you have two categories of zeros, and that's the general approach we have. So because it covers all cases of reciprocal algebraic integers, all the information is there, and if we want to tackle the problem of Lemmer, we have to do something with that and to understand that deeply. The identification we have seen last time the identification of the roots of the lenticuli in a certain region, in a certain angular sector. The roots of this Paris-Upper function, the power series, these roots, the lenticular roots, are conjugates of beta in the common sense. And for the others, we don't know. It's extremely difficult to reach. The only information we have of that. So, can we get an access to a minorant of the Mallet measure? Only using these lenticular roots? The answer is yes. So yes, I wrote that. So that's a Fredholm theory. But the Perron-Frobenius operators for numeration systems, beta transformation, are not compact. So we are in a generalized theory. Ruel has worked on that. Viviane Baladi, Marc Policot. There is ergodicians also. Takahashi Ito, Japanese guys. To understand these, the eigenvalues of transfer operators associated to the beta shift, like that. So the poles, so the zeros I have shown are the poles of the zeta function, and that's the eigenvalues of the transfer operators involved. So I said there are two collections of zeros. So the one which are very close to the unit circle, to say things very simply, and those which are off. Okay, so we have identified last time the zeros in the lenticulus of zeros as conjugates, I said, using not the polynomial sections of this power series, but rewriting polynomials, allowing there is a second convergent sequence of polynomials tending to the power series like that. And because the minimal polynomial is always there, so, and the very structure of the polynomial sections Sn, so we know that the lenticuli arise as a block. So that is to say, if you have a zero, this 0, 1 over beta is simple. This one is simple also. The polynomial is reciprocal. And there is a block of zero coming, of conjugates coming in this angular sector. So, and we have identified like that the zeros of the analytic function as zero minimal polynomial. So now the method to have access to an asymptotic expansion of the Mallet measure. So we need to have a good theory of approximation of the lenticular roots, and therefore we will have access to a certain approximate Mallet measure or minorant of it, considering only the lenticular roots in a certain angular sector. So so we can take here, where for the trinomials, only a big angular sector. I will show how it works. And to extend the method to any beta, but in a much reduced angular sector, because we cannot identify more, like that. And the good theory is not, cannot be found in the book of Hardy, for instance, of a divergent series. It's a method which is inspired by the works of Poincaré in the n-body problem, with a divergent series of divergent sums of functions with a big O at the end. So the writing is usual, but in the spirit is that. So apparently, well, I observed that I have introduced that for the trinomials in this context, where it was a need, and so it works with that. So what says Galois theory? We want to have access to expressions of the roots as a function of the coefficients. Up till degree 5 it's possible, and after, actually, apparently we don't know, but for the trinomials it's possible to have approximate expressions as asymptotic expansions of the roots as a function of the degree of n. And the coefficients, that's 0, plus 1, minus 1, that's okay. And so we, after degree 6 and so on for these trinomials, so it's, I have developed that. And from that and the Rouchet method, we have access to zeros of the general Paris-Upper function at beta. And what we have seen on the big figures, there is a limit equidistribution. I will formalize that after for the other roots and the complete set of roots. So there are two types of roots, the lenticular roots, giving rise to a minorant of the Mallet major, and the complete set of roots involved in a very general theory at the same time. When beta tends to 1, when n tends to infinity, when the dynamical degree tends to infinity. So the minorant is this one. So if we have the lenticular roots expressed as a asymptotic expansion of n, of the dynamical degree of beta, we will have this minorant also expressed like that as a asymptotic expansion and the story. So the problem is extremely heavy to have a good asymptotic expansion of the roots. So at first order it doesn't work, second order you start seeing things, and so on. We have to continue and push things up till order 4 to have access to a Mallet measure, interesting Mallet measure. So I have developed that, I published that 2 years ago in UDT. So the very famous books, treatise of Henri Poincaré. So Henri Poincaré gave lectures at the Sorbonne in Paris about celestial mechanics, and he has introduced the theory of perturbation in the second volume of his treatise. And the third one is a theory of tides. And the n-body problem, so the third one was the three-body problem. The theory of perturbation in the second volume, and the n-body problem in general of n planets around the sun is treated in there. So he became very famous with his treatise. It was really on fashion, and space was fascinating at that time, just before Einstein. And so, okay. So what happens with the zeros? You consider the, okay, I will go back. You consider the zeros of the polynomial in there. So there is just the trinomial as 37 planets. Okay, there is no sun. We are in potential theory by Urmeli, for instance. There is a certain repulsive effects between the roots to explain, so to say, the distribution, very regular distribution of the roots of a polynomial like that, obeying some constraints. Constraints from tightness conditions in weak topology. Well, I will go back to that. So. I wanted to say, okay. So now we are interested in expressing Z0 as an asymptotic expansion, and once we will have a certain number of terms in the development and the tail, we will continue to express the others like that. So I will show the starting point, and after it's heavy, becomes heavy. So the starting point is like that. So theta n is the 0 I have shown. You express 1 minus t divided by n, and t between 0 and n. You put the approximate solution at the first order inside the equation. There are some constraints. And you take the logarithm, and things, you try to estimate t at the first order, at the best, removing the second order terms, and you progress like that. And at the end, well, there is no end, it's never finishing. You have a divergent sum of functions. But when you stop, you have a development terms and a tail. So it's, well, that's just usual things for the equations. Okay. So the proposition is like that. So theta n is 1 minus log divided by n and other terms. We can redevelop that. It's efficient for the Mallet measure. And for the other roots, that's still longer. And actually, what appears in this trinomial, there are three regimes. There are in a very narrow angular sector, there is one regime of asymptotic expansion of up to order 4, another one, and then a complete region after where there is a unique form. So we have to play with that. And when is the dynamical degree sufficiently large, then these two regions become extremely negligible. So therefore, we can play with generic expressions. And actually, there is a threshold where, for the regime of validity of the asymptotic expansion for n, the dynamical degree greater than 260. So it comes from the very structure of the asymptotic expression of the roots of the trinomials. So after applying the method of Frouchet, we can identify and have here, in general, in complete generality, access to an approximate expressions of the roots of the lenticulae. And then, okay, and we have access to a minor rent. So for the, yeah, okay. So what happens now numerically, when we take these expressions, we have a convergence of the Mallet measure of taking all the roots in the right. In this sector for Gn, and in a much narrow sector, that's approximate. That's for Gn. That in general, that's for all beta. Okay. So when we take this angular sector, we obtain exactly, by another method obtained by Chris Smith and David Boyd, actually these expressions. And there is a convergence to a log sign integral, studied by Barvine, for instance, which is this one. It's a very famous value, corresponding to an exponential square root of 3 divided by 4 pi. And the value of the Cray series with a character you have here, and so this value for the trinomials is greater than 1. So we have solved for the problem of Lemmer is solved actually for Gn. So it's okay, but we know from the theorem of Chris Smith we have seen at the beginning that Gn is non-reciprocal, and we know only from the theorem of Chris Smith that the Mallet measure is greater than the smallest Piso number. So you have 138, 135 greater than this one, so that's fully coherent. But so this is just a confirmation. We don't prove it, but the method is very powerful because it can be generalized to any beta. To all beta which are reciprocal, and that's magical now, because when we apply this method in general, and with the Rouchet method for the geometry of the roots in this lenticulae, so we have access. So this is for the okay. Okay, I have skipped that because it's very long expressions. When we do that, we have access to, when the dynamical degree tends to infinity, to a limit which is given by a certain So there exist. Okay. So up to some constants which are here, there exists a certain value greater than 1.15411, slightly below the number of Flemmer, so the smallest Mahler measure known, which is this one, and we come from the techniques applied to this limit angular sector, and with the Rouchet method. So the integral is not a log sign integral, that's a bit more complicated. And it comes from the size of the radii of the Rouchet circle used, but it's possible to refine that at its best, and we are 2% of the number of Flemmer in this story. So we apply that to the lenticuli here, so it gives a limit Mahler measure like that, which is a quantity obtained from the zeros of the Paris-Upper function. But we have the identification of the zeros, of lenticular zeros as conjugates. So it's a minor round of the Mahler measure we obtain like that at the limit when beta tends to 1, when the dynamical degree tends to infinity. Okay. So now when we use the method we have developed for the trinomials here to a general power series, we obtain an expansion of the Mahler measure as a function of the dynamical degree of beta, and we taking only the first two terms, we obtain this value, this expression. I mean, this expression as a minor round. The Mahler measure is greater than so above the limit here, minus, there is a minus, some constant coming from the method, and 1 over log here of the dynamical degree. So that's the true degree is not of beta is not involved in this story, does not come naturally. We have to recover that. Okay. So I would like to go back to before for trinomials. So this method for trinomials gives that. So I go back to this one. There is a limit here, which is 1.38 something times the expansion. But we do not control actually the coefficients by this method. We have a band, an upper bound of the absolute value. And we have to control also, it's very important, the constant in the big O. So we need to have as precise as possible control of the roots in the big angular sector for the Gn, and in the angular sector here, and it's possible. So the improvement by this method of the inequality of Dobrowolski, I've cited it at the beginning, is this one for the pair numbers. So lambda is, we have seen 1.38 something, divided by 6 like that. And now in general, we have this one. So that's exactly the same expression with different constants in full generality. So now there is a conjecture of Flemmer, but there is a conjecture of Schinzel-Zassenhaus addressed to houses of algebraic integers. So when you take a pair number, of course, by definition, the house is itself. And when you take the proposition I have seen for theta n, so it's very easy to compute actually when n is large enough a certain constant, and you finish the proof to prove that this value is valid for n between 2 and 200. So there exists a constant only for this family of pair numbers, And we would like, by the extension of the method, so we obtain actually a numerator here by the method, which is slightly increasing. So to answer the question of Schinzel. And now, okay. So in general, the method leads also to a calculation of a constant, but when is, so I wrote 260, so this interval on the left, so we have that. So this value is very small, but it works, and it means that the conjecture is true with this value. Well, I obtained that. Maybe it's, somebody can do better that. So the extension of the method applied to the trinomials to the general case. So the limit equidistribution phenomenon occurring at the same time of the problem of Flemmer so you put a Dirac peak. It's like that. So you put a Dirac peak at each conjugate, at each 0, actually. And you divide by the number of conjugates. And so it's for the conjugates of the Perron numbers forming the sequence theta n minus 1. And then you have a weak convergence of these discrete measures towards the R measure. So there are two things. There is a limit support to consider. It's a measure. So this is a limit support, and you have a limit measure on this support, which is splitted, and actually it is absolutely continuous with respect to the Lebesgue measure. Actually, it's the Lebesgue measure itself divided by 2 pi. And what does it do visually? That's only that. You start for n equal 12. So I have shown that several times, passing from one slide to another one. 28, like that. No, sorry. 50, 100, 200, and so on. So you see there is a very regular distribution of the conjugates, and there is no any more bump there. It's very can understand by yourself that the limit support is a unit circle, and it comes from a criterion of a tightness condition in the weak topology of measures. So there is an account of that in the book of Billingsley. Actually, when the certain condition is valid on the very height of betas, and therefore we have this phenomenon occurring at the same time. So we have a minoration of the Mahler measure and the limit equidistribution of the conjugates at the same time towards the unit circle. I am sketchy. I just want to say things like that. And when numerically, for the method, so we have seen that there is a minorant of the Mahler measure of the trinomial, which is at the limit, that's 138 something, 135. When we apply this method to general betas, so it's possible to obtain this value, so 1.01 and so on. So it's natural to obtain the same index here, the same Perron number here and there in the minorant of the conjecture of Flemmer and the one of Schinzel-Assenhaus. So now the proof is that the proof. so we separate out, we use the inequality of Dobrowolski to make the computations and to be in the different, the correct regime of validity of the asymptotic expansions. So first, beta can be greater than theta 5 minus 1. So this one is the smallest Piso number. Okay, so and after between 6 for the dynamical degree and 260, and then above. And above we can use the asymptotic expansions, and in between we have to look carefully this region, because it's an intermediate region. We either it's possible to do that on the computer, finishing on the computer, or being careful with expressions. So in case R is the Mahler measure, so imagine beta is alpha. That's the general case. Is greater than this one, so it's of course greater than the pair number index by 259, because the sequence is decreasing to 1. In the second case, the Mahler measure is the product of all the absolute values of the conjugates. So there is one which is Gauss by definition, and we have that. And in the third case, we apply the inequality with a constant we have defined by the Rouchet method, the asymptotic expansion, and so on. And numerically, we obtain that. So this lower bound is correct. Okay. So now in the second part, I would like to speak of the problem of Lemmer in equations in higher dimension. I'm very sketchy, but it's very heavy to present that carefully. So the theories involved are a theory of Fredholm, but generalized for the arithmetical dynamical systems. So it was developed by David Ruel in the thermodynamic formalism, Vivian Baladi, Keller, to understand the zeros, the poles, domains of definition, multiplicities, and correspondence with the eigenvalues of the transfer operators. But actually, so these functions have natural boundaries, and we are interested here in a very small proportion of poles of the dynamical zeta function, which are very close to the unit circle in general, which is a natural boundary. So it's a very difficult problem, and only the techniques of asymptotic expansions in this way, in the sense of Poincaré, can give rise to a certain information on them. For the rest, it's probably not possible. So maybe the Mahler measures can be bounded by numerically by constants which are better than that. I don't know. That's totally open. So now there are analogues. There are the problems of limit Mahler measures by the theorem of Boyd and Lawton we have mentioned at the beginning. And there are 7, 10 analogues of Mahler measures and heights. So I would like to mention a few of them. There is a Mahler zeta function also by Tsakuba. I will not speak of that. The metric Mahler measure, the logarithmic metric Mahler measure, so M hat, was introduced by Dubiskas and K-Smith, where we have a Q-vector space of algebraic numbers, modulo torsion, and written multiplicatively. And so it is defined like that. The infimum of sums n beginning arbitrary of the logarithm of the Mahler measure of the terms, the factors, when you decompose alpha n, when you decompose alpha into a product of alpha n's. So it's the infimum taken over all possible ways of writing any representative alpha of alpha bar. So in the quotient space as a product of other algebraic numbers. So the construction may be applied to any height function and is extremal in the sense that any other function satisfying this conjunction of inequality, so g of alpha bar less than m hat of alpha bar, and also g applied to alpha and beta minus 1 less than g alpha plus g alpha beta. The triangle inequality is smaller than m hat. So the structure of the completion of G endowed with the norm deduced from the Weil height has been studied previously by Alcock and Waller. And so we have access to some properties of yeah. Okay. So there is a need. Yeah, okay, so that's this one. So there is a need to study G. So Alcock and Waller studied it, and so the Weil height satisfies these properties. So for alpha and any root of unity, we have that. So there's a multiplication by roots of cyclotomic polynomials. So with these properties on G, so we are in a quotient space, and so these conditions imply that the map alpha beta h of alpha beta minus 1 is a metric on the quotient group, and we have also a Q action by the roots of some polynomials here, zs minus beta alpha to the r. For any alpha and any root of unity. Okay, so we have a norm. And now there is decomposition, so they continue that. So we consider all the... so Y denotes the totally disconnected locally compact Hausdorff space of all places Y of the algebraic numbers. So B is the Borel-Sigma algebra of Y. So okay, and for any number field belong in any number field K, Galois normal extension, and any place V. So we denote Y KV, the set of Y dividing V, so that we have a disjoint union like that. So we can put actually, so now there is a unique regular measure on B, positive and open sets, finite and compact sets, which satisfy lambda of these sub-collections of y's equal to the local degree divided by the degree. So kv, qv, kq for any Galois field and any place v of k. And also for any automorphism of q bar over k, tau, and any Borel subset. So the measure of tau e is equal to the measure of e. So they prove that Alcor and Valère prove that there is a map from G to L1, so integrable functions on y, equipped with a sigma algebra we have seen, and this lambda built on the local degrees, and alpha f alpha given by f alpha of y equal to the log of it's so the local measure of alpha. So it's a linear isometry of norm 2H, and which satisfies some properties we have here. So additivity with indices, and a property of metric property which we integrate. So f alpha is not the f beta of the Paris-Upper function. That's just here the definition. So now we have an image of the set of algebraic numbers modulo torsion in L1 of this space. And we can consider actually chi, the subset formed by each time there is an integral which is 0 for lambda. So it gives a certain codimension 1 linear subspace of L1, and they prove that F is dense in chi, and that chi is a completion of J with a Weil height up to isometry, and they prove that F is dense in LP for any P also greater than 1. So it's possible to define LP spaces, okay, on Y with the same metric, and also they prove that F is dense in the Banach space of continuous real valued functions on Y, which vanish at infinity, equipped with the subnorm. So they have contributed that's the T-metric Malher measure. So after there is using this infimum, there is a continuation of this approach in the Malher P norms and LP lemma conjectures. So that's Philly and Meiner prove that the space F admits linear operators canonically associated to the Malher measure and to the LP norms on Y. So they have introduced Malher P norms from orthogonal decomposition of F, and in this context, I have obtained extended formulations called LP lemma conjectures of the lemma conjecture and of the conjecture of Singer-Sonos at the same time. That is to say, they have an approach which allows continuously to go from one conjecture to another one. So, namely, if we denote by K the set of finite extensions of Q, and those which are left invariant by the actions of Q automorphisms in Q bar, so Kg. So for each K in K, so if we denote by Vk the set of F alphas we have seen, so the logarithm of the size of alpha, so alpha in the class in K star modulo torsion, and so we denote like that, and Vn is the sum of Vk. So now what can we do with that? So there is an inner product on F, and the theorem is a theorem of decomposition like that. So there are projection operators on F for each k in the J invariant part of K, such that so the image of Tk of F lies inside Vk. Tk is orthogonal to Tl, so these two images are orthogonal. For K and L in the J invariant space, K different of L, with respect to the inner product on F we have seen, like that. And there are two projections also. There are projections also Tn from F to F, so it's such that the image of F lies in Vn, and for M different of N, the image of F by Tm and Tm are orthogonal. And we have this decomposition also. And the two projections Tk and Tn commute. So now let's go to Lemmer conjectures, LP Lemmer conjectures in this context. We have a space of representation, and we have L1, LP spaces. And so the conjecture is that, which cannot be reached by the method of asymptotic expansions, but maybe it could be adapted, I don't know. For any real number p between 1 and infinity, there exists a real constant Cp, such that the degree of alpha times hp, so the equivalent of the very height, for any class of algebraic numbers modulo torsion is greater than Cp. So Cp is strictly positive. So the very height is the logarithm of m alpha divided by the degree of alpha. So in the classical case, so here we have the h of alpha times the degree. We know that the Malher measure is greater than 1, so it should be greater than a certain constant here, greater than 0, like that. So that's Cp. And for p equal 1, the conjecture is exactly the classical Lemmer's conjecture. And for p infinite, Fine and Meiner proved that this conjecture is exactly the classical conjecture of Schindler-Dassenhaus. That is to say, it's possible in this formalism to go from one to another one. So it's a formal abstraction with some measures. But to introduce actually the asymptotic expansions and the dynamics of algebraic numbers here, it seems a priori decorrelated. So there are still so they have continued that in this story. I would like to to continue. So you will check that by yourself in the PDF, because I would like to introduce other extensions of Malher measures and heights. So there is a T-metric Malher measure said. So it was introduced by Samuels. So that's fairly recent. So when t is greater than 1 or equal to 1, the T-metric Malher measure is defined by so the infimum of the sum of logarithm of the Malher measures of the factors when you decompose alpha, like that, and for any possibility of decomposition, and by extension for t equal infinity. So we have access to such measures. So it resembles the logarithmic Malher measures. And the questions, is it possible to have the equivalent of the Lemmer problem or the Schindler-Dassenhaus problem? Okay. So for t equal 1, M1 is a metric Malher measure introduced. We have seen that. So this function satisfies an analog of the triangle inequality. And we have the map alpha beta gives the T-metric Malher measure. of alpha beta minus 1, which this map defines a metric on G. So the class of algebraic numbers modulo torsion, which induces the discrete topology if and only if the conjecture of Lemmer is true. So we have the discrete topology, okay, and so T between 1 and infinity, and alpha an algebraic number. We say that the infimum in the T-metric Mallet measure of alpha is attained by alpha 1 alpha n if the equality case holds. That is to say, we have the two inequalities when t is between 1 and infinity. So we have this expression, mt of alpha equal to the power 1 over t, the sum over n of the logarithm of the factors in the decomposition, in a certain decomposition. And for t infinity, we have the maximum. And so for alpha, an algebraic number, so we denote the Galois closure of QF alpha. So the rad of K alpha is by definition, so we denote it by beta, the algebraic numbers, such that the mth power of beta belongs to K alpha for some n. And after a conjecture of Dubiskas and Smith, so 2001, so Samuels proved that the infimum is attained in rad of K alpha. So we have a decomposition of algebraic numbers as factors of the algebraic numbers modulo torsion. So the modulo torsion, means so the classical problem of Lemmer, that's for that's to give a minor rank of alpha, a certain constant which is greater than 1, for alpha non-zero and not a root of unity. We avoid all the cyclotomic polynomials. So the not a root of unity is treated here as a modulo torsion. So we avoid all the torsion, we avoid all cyclotomic polynomials in this story. And that's why we have spaces of representations like that and integral representations of algebraic numbers. So there are open questions for that in this representation. So whether this infimum is attained in proper subsets of Q bar leads to many open questions. So by Jankowskas, Samuels, and more recently. The p-metric and the t-metric constructions of Filet-Meiner and Jankowskas are slightly different in nature. Those are the same for p equal 1 for the conjecture of Lemmer. Filet and Meiner have studied the minimality of the Mallet measure by several norms related to the metric Mallet measure introduced by Dubiskas and Smith, and using results on heights of algebraic numbers modulo multiplicative group actions. Sorry. Okay, so in 5 there is another approach of the LT Mallet measures, so with eventually a Lemmer problem also in this context. So Filet and Meiner introduced an infinite collection of vector space norms on G. So G is algebraic numbers modulo torsion called LT Weil height. So a generalization of the Weil height, I have written it here. And so which satisfy extremality properties and minimal logarithmic LT Mallet measures from HT. So I will go back. Now I come to that. So by definition, for K a number field, sigma K is sets of place and the absolute value v, indexed by V. So so HT of alpha, we have the expression here, is the sum over all places of the local degrees divided by the degree and the absolute value of the logarithm of alpha to the power t, and global A to the power 1 over t. So alpha is here an element of the number field k, which is not 0, and for which 2h equal h1. So it's that's a normalization, and h infinite is a supremium of the log of alpha v, the absolute value of alpha at the place v, and we sum up over all places like that for alpha an element of k which is non-zero. And they reformulated the conjecture of Lemmer in this context, so with t between 1 and infinity. And they also reformulated the conjecture of Schiller-Sonnenhaus. So it's another approach as previously. So the different view on the conjecture, more formal. So there is a ultrametric Mahler measure also by Samuels to give a projective height of G, so algebraic numbers modulo torsion, which satisfies the strong inequality, triangle inequality. And the ultrametric Mahler measure induces the discrete topology G if and only if Lemmer's conjecture is true. So we have already seen this condition. So it gives spaces which are discrete. So there is an approach also developed by Lint, which is called giving rise to the logarithmic Mahler measure in the sense of Lint and the Lint-Lemmer constant. We introduce a compact abelian group, G, and it is equipped with a Haar measure. So we consider the group of characters of G by Portray-Higin duality and discrete. And the class of so we for any function in the algebra D of G hat, we consider the integral mg of f of the logarithm of the absolute value and d mu. Which generalizes actually the usual Mahler measure for Laurent series. And the Lemmer constant of G is then defined by the infimum for all f with the equivalent of the logarithmic Mahler measure mg of f greater than 0. So in the classical case, so the logarithmic Mahler measure, that's for any function. So if we take any polynomial like that, we are interested in the logarithmic Mahler measure. And to find a certain bound which is greater than 0 here. So we've seen in the classical case it's possible to obtain them. And here, from a compact abelian group, this is a current problem. So the method we have seen cannot be transposed like that. And so the authors have investigated the infimum of the constant with G for several compact abelian groups. So Lint first, and so the classical Lemmer problems ask whether lambda of t for the one-dimensional torus obeys this class. So it's a group, it's a view with groups. In the classical case, we are playing with torsion, that is to say, with cyclotomic polynomials, with problems when the unit circle, the one-dimension torus is playing an important role here. That's an extension of the conjecture of Flemmer by compact abelian groups in general. So if so, there are results in this context for other groups than the unit circle. So that's T. So now that's G. So n greater than 2. So we denote by a row of n the smallest prime number that does not divide n. Okay. And Douglas Lin proves that lambda g is equal to lambda t for any non-trivial connected compact abelian group. And that, so that's first. And second, the Lint-Lemmer, the Lemmer constant, the Lint-Lemmer constant, for the cyclic group Z divided by NZ is less than the logarithm of rho n divided by n greater than 2 or equal to 2. So it is known in some other cases. So Keblinger obtained the result on lambda g for cyclic finite cyclic groups g of cardinality not divisible by 420. Pignot and Peiner solved the case when the cardinal of the group is 420. And Da Silva and Peiner made progress on non-cyclic finite abelian groups. So that's n power of Zp, the ring of periodic integers, and Pignot, Peiner, and VP Smakul on the general P groups, like that. So, and also G, so the product of Zm times Gp. So what is, yes, okay. So extensions. M not divisible by P, so an extension as direct product. So there is a certain information on this Lint-Lemmer constant. So it's still the problem of Lemmer in the context of the group is not anymore the one-dimensional torus, the unit circle. So that's a departure in the classical case. That's departure from cyclotomic polynomials. For the Mallet measure here, that's the equivalent problem. Higher Mallet measures and multiple K-higher Mallet measures. So they were introduced by, in the same spirit by Kurokawa, Lalin, Ochai, Gon, Oyanagi. And there are relations with zeta functions. So the logarithmic Mallet measure of, so we have several definitions, of family of S polynomials is given like that. You have a normalization constant of 1 divided by 2 pi I to the n. We integrate on the n-dimensional torus, and we take the maximum of the logarithm of the absolute value of the polynomials like that, and you integrate with dxi divided by xi. So that the generalized Mallet measure. There is a multiple Mallet measure also. So it resembles, we take, instead of taking the max, we take the product. And there is also the k higher Mallet measure of P, like that. And you take the power k of, so P1 equal P2 equal PS, and the power k in the logarithm when you integrate. So there is a problem of Lemmer, so in Mathilde Lalin in Montreal, Sina also one student of her, for K higher Mallet measures, and also asymptotic formulas. That's interesting because it's a link with what I have shown for the Mallet measures, for the logarithmic Mallet measures. And the analog of the Boyle-Houghton theorem are studied. So the Boyle-Houghton theorem I have shown that it was at the first in the first lecture. So it's I wrote very briefly at the end that the limit of the Mallet measure of 1 minus 1 plus x plus xn is a Mallet measure in the sense of the Jensen's formula with two variables of Mallet measure of minus 1 plus x plus y. So that's so when n tends to infinity. So there are some conditions on the when you take a polynomial of one variable with sequences of exponents like that, and you have conditions on this family of exponents to tend to infinity. You recover such expressions, and in this context, there are analogs. So it's interesting to observe that there is a motivic reinterpretation of the values of the k higher Mallet measures in terms of the Deligne cohomology. So Mathilde Lalling is still working on that and very active actually. Zudilin also. So the small points and the problem of lemma in higher dimension. Most of the work, so we have played with the Mallet measure, and the logarithmic Mallet measure comes from the dynamics in the complex plane. But if you read the literature, generally, the theory of height, which is used, it's very classical. So applied to the problem of lemma, you can find an account of that in the book of Marc Henry and Joseph Silverman, Chanuel, Michel Waldschmidt, Bombieri, Gubler, and so on. It's a very powerful tool to study points and sizes of the rational points and varieties. In the classical lemma problem, the height is a Weil height, and the lemma conjecture is expressed by a lemma inequality, where the minorant is a function of the degree. And it states that as it is written like that, so that's what I have written there, like that. So the degree times the height, whatever the height is greater than a constant, which is strictly universal and strictly positive. So in the very general presentation of the problem of lemma in higher dimension, h is replaced by a rational point and a variety. H alpha, h is replaced by another height. It can be the canonical height or essential minimum. And the degree can be replaced by a more convenient obstruction index. So this is in arithmetic geometry. We go to arithmetic geometry. So arithmetic geometry does not care about the dynamics of algebraic numbers I have shown. So it's totally decorrelated of the first part of the talk, and it's interesting therefore to compare. Okay, so I will now. So there are three problems of lemma in arithmetic geometry. There is a classical lemma problem with points. So basically, it's on the multiplicative group of algebraic numbers modulo torsion. We use the Dobrowolski and Voutier's inequality. So with the dynamics of algebraic numbers, we improve the inequality of Dobrowolski. We forget about the degrees and we put the dynamical degree instead. Okay, and the generalization are due to Francesco Amoroso, Sineu David, Pontreau in Canada, Wolfgang Schmidt for some points on GMN, Anderson and Marseille, and so on. And for abelian varieties, Sineu David, Marc Henry, Laurent, Michel Laurent for elliptic curves, and so on. And so that's first. The second is a relative lemma problem, and the third is a lemma problem for subvarieties. So the idea so in the very classical lemma problem, as we have seen, so you take alpha, you consider that the house of alpha, so we call it beta, tends to 1. you observe the Mahler measure of beta, and you try to find a minorant like that. Universal minorant. Instead of taking a point, you take subvarieties. So the idea, and you take the collection of subvarieties and you try to put, of course, the equivalent of heights, not on that point but on subvarieties. So there is the approach of Philippon and so on, and you try to give a minorant. So the point is alpha or beta. That's subvarieties like that. You try to put a certain, the equivalent of a height, I don't know what it is, and to minor, to obtain a minorant of some kind. Great, so universal minorant for any subvariety, let's say greater than 0. So that's the idea of the third point. So the elliptic lemma problem is that. So this is the conjecture of Lemmer as expression for elliptic curves. Like that, you take an elliptic curve over a number field K. So there is a universal constant. There is a constant such that for any rational point in K bar, if P has infinite order, then a certain height, I don't want to define that, is greater than this constant divided by the degree generated by the point. So that's the elliptic lemma problem. And what you see in the, so it's a remarkable result by Michel Laurent. So there is this term, very nice term, but there is another one coming from the classical Dobrowolski inequality. And we have seen by the dynamics, this Dobrowolski inequality is changing. So there is not a power 3, but 1 over the logarithm of the dynamical degree. So this one disappears. So the dynamics of algebraic numbers can say a lot of things that try to solve completely this conjecture because it removes this part. So Michel Laurent has used the Dobrowolski inequality in there. The relative lemma problem, so the generalization of the classical lemma problem for subfields is decomposed in 2 steps. So first, does there exist a real number ck such that the height is greater than ck for all alpha in the multiplicative group of k modulo torsion first? And if it is satisfied, does there exist a real number, C prime, for which the height is greater than C prime divided by the degree of alpha over K, for any alpha in K bar modulo torsion. So if K is a number field, the first one is by North-Scott theorem is satisfied and amounts to the classical lemma problem. And if K is an infinite extension of Q, the problem is much more difficult. So it's usual to speak of the abelian lemma problem when the field is the abelian closure of Q. Okay, the abelian lemma problem was solved by Amoroso and Vornicic. So it gives an access to the conjecture of Lemmer in this context, and the Weil height is greater than this value, log of phi divided by 12, for any non-zero alpha, which is not a root of unity. So we have, in this context, in the abelian Lemmer problem, a solution of the problem of Lemmer, but there is no dynamic in there. And so there is a conjecture by David and Andri, replacing the true degree here by this quantity, the abstraction index, to have a conjecture similar to the minoration of the one about the minoration of the Weil height. So it's for an abelian variety of a number field. Non-pole symmetric line bundle over A, and so the existence of for constants, such as the canonical height, some height and points, satisfies this inequality for every point of infinite order modulo every proper abelian subvariety. For the second part, I there, it's usual to speak of the relative lemma problem. So the abelian and the relative lemma problems are naturally extended in higher dimension. And for subvarieties, so I switch that. Okay. Okay, I don't know. So the Lemmer's problem for subvarieties, I didn't give details because it requires a certain number of materials, and but it exists. I just mentioned the idea with subvariety there. Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I would like to go back to the limit point of Mallet-Majors. So there is a Boyle-Lawton theorem. So Christoph Dosch has also obtained a very interesting limit theorem in this sense with two variables. And it's a way to pass from the Mallet-Major of univariate polynomial to Mallet-Majors of multivariate polynomials, several variables. And to understand the topology of the limit points of the set of Mallet-Majors. It's a very rich part of mathematics. It's a very rich part of transcendental. The limit points of Mallet-Majors can be transcendental or algebraic. I would like to recall what I said at the beginning. So S, the set of Piso number was proved in 1944 by Salem. It was a conjecture of Vijayaraghavan to be closed. Okay, so if you take a Piso number, so the Mallet-Major of beta is equal to beta. And therefore, the limit points in this category are Piso numbers themselves. So after, there is another paper by Salem about the so-called construction of Salem. Construction of Salem. And if you take theta a Piso number, so there exists sequences of Salem number of elements of T on the left and the right, which converge actually to theta, and the converse we don't know. And there are two conjectures of Boyd. That's the starting point of the story. Two conjectures of Boyd saying that S union T is closed. And the first derived set of the set of Salem numbers is equal to S. So here, the limit points of Mallet-Majors are exactly are algebraic integers. But in general, we can have values of L functions, and coming from the geometry, different L functions, Hasselbalch functions, Dirichlet L functions. So it's a very rich domain. We may have transcendental values and so on. so Dellinger reinterpreted in 97. It's a very basic article. The logarithmic measures of Laurent polynomials as topological entropies in the theory of dynamical systems of algebraic origin with hidden actions. So, so this was a new approach which offers a link with a higher category, a mixed motif of Dellinger and the real Delling homology, and the Bloch-Beilinson conjectures and special values of L functions and Malin measures. So after that, the paper of Dellinger was decompacted by Rodriguez Villegas. So, and in a very nice way to allow in several examples to show it works. And so in this approach, yes, of Dellinger, so there are two cases. Either the Laurent polynomial does not vanish on the n-dimensional torus, in which case the logarithm of MP is the Delling period of a mixed motif over Q, which corresponds to a certain non-zero symbol, or P vanishes on the n-dimensional torus under some assumptions, and it is the difference of two Delling periods of certain mixed motifs, equivalently the difference of two symbols evaluated against topological cycles, so integral K-theory cycles. So for that, you take the split n-dimensional torus, the affine spec, defined over the commutative ring A equal Z, Q, or R. And so the polynomial P is non-zero, non-identically zero. It defines a certain subscheme which is irreducible and closed. And for any current sheaf on GMAN, the group of global sections equipped with a discrete topology admits a Pontryagin dual, so which is a compact group. On that, you can define a dynamical system. So this compact group with a canonical action, the n action, constitute an arithmetical dynamical system for which the entropy can be defined and correlated to the Malin measure. So the application to the Laurent polynomial, A equals Z, provides the identity with the entropy. So there is a logarithmic Malin measure appearing like that. And the reinterpretation of the expression of the logarithmic Malin measure corresponds to the integration of a differential form in connection with a cup product. So it's written like that in the Delling homology. So the link between the L series of a motif and its derivative, Delling periods, and the Beilinson conjecture comes from the conjecture of Delling-Scholl. So there is a treatment of that which is fairly abstract in the paper of Dellinger. So as I said, Rodriguez studies the condition of applicability of these conjectures for having logarithmic Malin measures expressed as L series. For instance, when k is an integer, so we can take the example of the logarithmic Malin measure of polynomial which is written there, so x1 plus x2 squared plus k. And for k equals 3, we obtain a reinterpretation by the symbols. We obtain this value, so 2 divided by 3, log of 3, and so on. And with a reinterpretation, a cohomological reinterpretation of each term. So it was continued by the student of Dellinger, so Bornhorn, and so the logarithmic Malin measure in general can be expressed as a certain coefficient times the derivative of L series and a direct series, sorry, and the derivative of a I sub I L function of an elliptic curve. So it's with values at algebraic integers. So it's coming like that, and there are many examples coming from different domains, actually, of curves and K3 surfaces and so on. So now it's there is a complete literature on that. So I'm continuing. I have still 5 minutes. Okay, so there is I would like to mention the logarithmic Murray measure is conjecturally a closed subset of R for the usual topology. Well, it seems out of reach now because there is no general theory. Okay. Okay, I will stop that. I will stop there. Thank you. Thank you very much.